I'm explaining a film from 2024 titled Land of Bad. Spoilers ahead. Enjoy the content. The film opens with Sergeant J.J. Kinney, a young soldier, contemplating his breakfast options when his senior arrives and tells him to get ready for a high-altitude, low-opening parachute jump known as a halo jump.
You're Halo qualified, yeah?
No, sir. Are we doing a halo jump?
You'll be fine.
Next, we move to Captain Eddie Grimm, also known as Reaper, who is not too happy about someone stealing his coffee right before. Sergeant Branson arrives and requests to talk about a leave for her wedding day. However, upon witnessing Reaper's ire, she chooses to put off the conversation, informing him that the operation is set to begin in just 15 minutes. Returning to Kinney, he boards a helicopter with Sergeant Abel, Sergeant Bishop, and Master Sergeant John Sweet, all of whom are en route to their mission destination. The soldiers continue their pre-operation briefing, making sure everyone is clear on their roles and objectives among them. Meanwhile, Reaper informs the other soldiers that his wife is expecting a child and that they should watch out for the phone ringing while he's off on this mission in case she goes into labor. Kinney seems a little confused and finds it difficult to understand some of the finer points. Sensing that he is confused, his allies surround him and tell him to remain focused because this is just his second mission and they cannot afford any distractions that may endanger their safety or the operation's success. Once they have finished their preparations, they leap from the chopper into the vast expanse below, each soldier executing their halo jump with precision. But as they drop, tensions rise among the group as Kinney has unanticipated trouble with his parachute. Eventually, at the last second, the parachute opens, eliciting a collective exhale from his allies who are still stationed back at the base. As the team makes their way through the dense Philippine jungle, Branson and Reaper put forth endless effort to support the team on the ground by providing their knowledge and technological know-how. They also keep a close eye on their progress. As their conversations turned to the mission at hand, it became clear that their main goal is to free a captive who is being held by Petrov, a notorious arms dealer who is known to operate in the area. With determination in their hearts, they continue to pursue their target across the harsh terrain. Suddenly, their attention is drawn to a structure ahead, a home nestled among the trees about 100 meters away. Curiosity piqued, they decide to investigate, cautiously approaching to discern who might be inside, eager to gather more information. They relay their discovery to Reaper, requesting assistance in monitoring the area with their drone. However, their plans are abruptly disrupted as communication with the base is lost. The soldiers decide to carry out the mission without the drone and approach the location. Just as Abel is about to fire, he senses movement ahead. The team keeps moving forward and soon finds themselves in front of a well-guarded base. After finding Petrov and his family relaxing on his lawn, they see some vehicles approaching the base with men and guns. It turns out that these are Abu Saf and his men, who run a terrorist organization. Upon witnessing this, the team asks Kinney about the status of the drone and Reaper. Soon, the drone and the system are fixed, and Reaper gets back in touch with the team, guiding them on what's happening inside. Suddenly, Abu Saf and his men shoot Petrov and his men. He chops off Tet's wife's head in front of him and is also about to kill his son. However, the team decides to step in and orders Reaper to drop the bomb. They also decide to shoot at Abu Saf and his men, giving the child an opportunity to escape. After this, Abu Saf orders his men to find the intruders, and suddenly chaos breaks out into a fierce fight. Kinney finds himself under attack, with a grenade briefly knocking him unconscious. Meanwhile, Abel takes a fatal shot to the abdomen, leaving Kinney unsure of how to help. Kinney responds to Sweet's urgent appeal for help by telling Reaper the enemy's position and asking for additional bomb strike. However, there is still some time until the bomb detonates, and in that time, the adversary fires a missile that hits Bishop and Sweet, killing them before they can even grieve. As Kinney runs into the thick bush, he calls out to Reaper for assistance. He gives him his coordinates and begs for direction. Alone in the woods, Kinney hears the menacing sound of enemy vehicles approaching. As anxiety grows, Reaper and Branson confirm that the enemy is approaching and advise Kinney to remain concealed and vigilant. Desperate to avoid arrest, Kinney dives into a nearby river in search of refuge under a bridge. As Reaper helps Kinney navigate through the jungle, he tries to calm Kinney's anxiety by striking up a conversation with him. They exchange personal stories, with Reaper sharing anecdotes about his own family. This diversion helps Kinney temporarily forget the impending dangers lurking around as night descends. Eventually, the dog and its handlers move on, leaving Kinney to breathe a shaky sigh of relief. When Kinney thinks it's safe to move on after taking a little break and carefully checking the area with his night vision binoculars, a helicopter approaches, ostensibly to save him. But before he can get to safety, Kinney is hit by gunfire and falls to the ground. Abu Sama's men don't waste any time in firing missiles at the helicopter, forcing it to back off before Kinney faces any danger.
Targets around the LZ.
Kinney fights back, firing back and telling Reaper to set off another explosive for their assailants after Kinney Reaper drops a bomb on the enemy, but as things get worse, a second vehicle shows up, bringing more soldiers and weaponry into the fight. With no more bombs left, Kinney begs Reaper for assistance. By pure happenstance, a rescue jet shows up and starts firing missiles at the oncoming car, giving Kinney vital seconds to escape. During this, Kinney escapes, and for a little while, everything quiets down. In the morning light, Kinney continues his trek, ready to leave the pandemonium of the previous night behind him. Reaper, who feels guilty for the botched evacuation, sincerely apologizes to Kinney in an attempt to defuse their mutual tension and allow them to confide in one another about their personal struggles. This gives them a momentary break from the dangers they are in as they converse, but it also causes Kinney to stumble, sending him plummeting into the river below with Reaper's warning. Kinney holds his ground as three armed adversaries move to encircle him. Gunfire breaks out unexpectedly, prompting Kinney to respond with his pistol. However, as his ammunition runs out, Kinney is forced to retreat, seeking refuge downstream. With adrenaline pumping through him, Kinney plunges into the cool embrace of a nearby waterfall.
Scan forward, keep me with him.
Copy.
He stays submerged, allowing the current to carry him downstream to safety, using its cascading waters to shield his escape. But as he emerges onto the shore, he's met with the menacing presence of a gun-wielding adversary. Meanwhile, Reaper and Branson find themselves unable to make contact with Kinney, adding to the already mounting sense of unease and uncertainty surrounding their mission. Now that he is at the hands of his captors, Kinney is hurt and bruised from their relentless attack. However, in an amazing turn of events, a man wearing a hoodie appears out of the shadows and kills Kinney with lightning-fast precision. To Kinney's surprise, the enigmatic rescuer is none other than Sergeant Sweet. Sweet released Kinney from his captors. Sweet tells them that Bishop is desperately in need of their assistance, which makes them retreat quickly back into the bush. They quickly get weapons from the shed, determined to help their buddy who is in need. Reaching a vantage point at the top of a high ridge, they manage to get in touch with Reaper again. Reaper is relieved to hear from Kinney, but their plans to save Bishop are met with resistance as Reaper advises caution and warns against going back into the danger zone. Despite Reaper's warnings, Kinney is determined to save Bishop, but their communication is cut off abruptly once more, leaving Reaper scrambling to find another way to get in touch with Kinney. Now, Kinney asks Sweet about their plan of action, only to find out that they still don't know Bishop's exact location. Unfazed, Sweet offers a plan that involves dropping bombs to divert attention so they may breach the enemy's defenses and find Bishop with all of their might. Kinney uses a radio to inform Reaper of the planned bomb drop locations, but their conversation is abruptly cut off when the radio dies, leaving them silent once more. Meanwhile, back at base, tensions rise as Colonel Dospak demands that Reaper resign from his position for working longer than his assigned 10-hour shift and refusing to give up on the operation. Reaper refuses to back down, leaving the Colonel with little choice but to offer a severe ultimatum. Reaper and Branson unwillingly comply with the Colonel's wishes, giving over their duties to another commander even though they are leaving. Reaper attests to his unwavering commitment to their cause and leaves clear instructions not to jeopardize the mission. Meanwhile, Sweet and Kinney load their gun and head straight back into the base. In one of the building's rooms, they see two men watching TV and decide to take them out quietly. However, as more men arrive, the fight turns into chaos. Kinney and Sweet work together to take down while defending one another. After being shot during this, Sweet is knocked down by a grenade, and Kinney and Sweet are taken prisoner by the men. After being beaten, Kinney calls out to one of the men, telling him that their air force is going to bomb this area and they must leave, but the man does not understand him. Kinney then rescues Sweet from his cage. Abu Sadf and his men brutally attacked Kinney, taking him out of his cage and beating him mercilessly before killing him with a gunshot to the head. Meanwhile, in a depressing scene at a grocery shop, Reaper's concerned countenance suggests that his fear for his missing allies is rising. Abu Saf uses a hammer to torture Kinney in an attempt to get information about the whereabouts of other troops. Kinney tries to convince Sweet that it's just the two of them, but Abu Saa doesn't believe him, which causes even more suffering. Unaware of Kinney's predicament, the sergeant in Reaper's place gets ready to drop bombs on the locations Kinney had previously shared. As the bombs rain down, the entire building explodes in a loud noise. Amazingly, Kinney, who was submerged in a tub during the explosion, emerges comparatively unharmed, taking advantage of a situation among the mayhem. Taking Abu Saa's sword, Kinney flees. While navigating through the chaos and fires in the inferno, Kinney's top concern is to find Bishop. Along the way, he meets the mission's principal asset, a Filipino prisoner who is a valuable source of data for the American Army, and learns that danger is hiding around every corner. Kinney now makes the decision to make their way through the mayhem in order to secure their lives and get the important information they need as they search for the Filipino prisoner. In the middle of the turmoil of the blazing property, Kinney finds Bishop. But, their reunion is marred by the sight of Abu Saf, who is also laying there in a horrible state and cruelly insults Kinney out of fury and resolve. Bishop is released from his cell as Kinney wields the sword and deals a deadly blow, ending Abu Saf's reign of terror. Kinney doesn't waste any time in coming up with a plan of escape, but their dreams of making a hasty getaway are scuppered and a countdown clock menacingly starts to indicate that another missile is about to launch. Kinney takes Abu Saa's radio and tries to get in touch with the base. After many tries, he eventually gets through to a soldier, but his requests for help are ignored since they are watching a football game on TV. They are upset but unfazed. After Kinney leaves a desperate voicemail for Reaper, hoping for a prompt response, Reaper hears the urgent message and feels a wave of resolve that drives him to act immediately, returning to the base in a hurry, even though the soldiers are still unaware of the danger that faces them. Engrossed in the thrill of the game, we are now aware that time is running out and that Kinney Bishop's and the Filipino prisoners' lives are in jeopardy. As Reaper arrives at the base, he moves quickly to intervene and tell the sergeant in charge of him to cancel the mission. They wait anxiously as they zoom in on the target area, and when they see Kinney waving back at them, a collective sigh of relief fills the room, and Bishop expresses his sincere gratitude to Kinney for his unwavering bravery. But Reaper's duty isn't over yet. With a resolute step, he enters the lounge where the troops are gathered, their gaze fixed on the TV, and he arms himself with a golf club. Reaper delivers a decisive blow, smashing the TV into pieces and ending the soldiers' spell of distraction. Meanwhile, Kinney Bishop and the Filipino asset are safely rescued and brought back to the base. Thanks for watching the recap. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Your support means a lot. Hope to see you next time.